Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to start with the new topic Pleistocene hominids in South and East Africa, Australopithecines, and the evolutionary significance. So, Africa is often referred to as the cradle of humankind because it is where our earliest ancestor evolved, all of our ancestors, including apes and primate stock. And Australopithecines, they hold a crucial place in evolutionary history because they act as a transition from great apes to modern humans. So they act as a bridge between this evolutionary history, where fills a gap by which the evolution took place. Evolution took its direction from apes to human species. And Australopithecines, they thrive during the Pleistocene epoch, which this period it was characterized by climatic fluctuation, environmental transformation, and evolutionary pressures. And we'll talk about each of them in the subsequent chapter. So during this period, cyclical glaciation and expansion of open landscape, it influenced key adaptation, particularly bipedalism, dietary shift, and cognitive advancement. So when grasslands are there, open landscape are there. So to survive, any species that can cover up a large distance in short time, they will have some evolutionary advantage, some survival benefit. So this is how bipedalism was favored by natural selection, because most of the primate species, if you can remember, they show this occasional bipedalism just to carry some stone or weight. So this variation it was favored by natural selection, which down the line further gave way to the emergence of Homo species. Now, second, dietary shift. So, because of cyclical glaciation, which means alternate period of glaciation and interglaciation, both of which in simple form means at one time there was snow, at other time the snow melted, and when snow melts there is an abundance of water, and abundance of water it will lead to creation of grassland vegetation. So Australopithecines, our ancestors, they faced with this situation that during the snowy situation they had limited vegetation, for which they had to diversify their dietary pattern. So this diversification of dietary pattern, it had two advantages. First, it led to an omnivorous diet, and this omnivorous diet is this omnivory. It helped in our survival. So this was the first benefit, and second benefit was that because of this dietary shift towards omnivory, we have had a gradual reduction in our teeth structure, gradual reduction in our dentition, and this reduction in dentition it further led to a flat face, because a protruded mouth, protrusion, a massive jaw, which in biology means a protrusion. So this massive jaw was not needed to chew on leaves, on uh, roots, on fruits, on herbs. So this omnivory also led to a generalized pattern of dentition, and this pattern also led to further selection of flat face variation, and that's how the later species of Homo sapien or Homo stock, later hominin species, all of them, they came to derive of flat face. So this was how all of these things they are related. Other advantage of bipedalism and dietary shift was that when you walk on your toe, it gives your eyes a larger field of vision, a larger field of vision in you can say stereoscopic vision. And because of this stereoscopic vision, your eyes can look further more than what a four-leg animal can see. So this had another advantage, that It help in further exploration, further foraging behavior, and along with it, your brain it came to have more information. So this more information, this oncoming of more information, it led to gradual expansion of brain areas, especially the neocortex area, the area that is related with brain processes. So you can link up, you can generalize all the information that bipedalism, when you are standing on your two feet, and this will give you more exposure. This will give you further wider horizon. Because of this horizon, you can see, you can guzzle up more information from the environment, and because your brain has more information, so it becomes more complex. And then for the energy efficiency, you have a generalized omnivorous diet, and that omnivorous diet, it gives your brain sufficient energy to fuel it up, so that it complex processes or neurological and hormonal processes, they keeps going on full steam. Because when the brain becomes complex, it needs more energy. So for example, the present Homo sapien species, our brain guzzle up, our brain consume about 25% of our energy, daily energy intake. Now let's come back to Australopithecines. So they existed in both South and East Africa, but they show variations in morphology and diet, while gracile species, especially Pharaonesis and Africanus, they exhibit a more generalized diet, and we can trace our ancestry through the gracile species. Whereas the robust species, Paranthropus boisei and Paranthropus robustus, both of them they have had specialized fibrous diet, specialized adaptation for processing tough plant material, that is fibrous material. And because of this specialization, they did not have any advantage, especially during the glacial period, for which they became extinct. Now let's talk about Pleistocene epoch. So this epoch, it spanned approximately 5.3 million years ago to 12,000 years ago, and this epoch, it is characterized by two geological periods. The first one, Pliocene, that ran from 5.3 to 2.6 million years, which were marked by gradual cooling, global climate changes, and expansion of grasslands and savanna in Africa. And then the Pleistocene, which is defined by repeated glaciations, environmental instability, and emergence of more advanced hominid, including Homo habilis and Homo erectus. Now, the environmental transformation of Pleistocene epoch. So, this was a time of significant climate shift, and these climatic shifts, they impacted, or in other words, they favored hominin evolution. So Pliocene period, from 5.3 to 2.6 million years old, it saw a gradual cooling of Earth's climate, which led to expansion of grasslands and savannas in Africa. And this Pliocene period, it got transitioned into Pleistocene from 2.6 to 12,000 years ago. And this was a period of cyclical glaciation, where ice sheets, they periodically advanced and retreated, drastically altering global ecosystem. Now let's have a look at the impact of these environmental transformation on hominin evolution. So because of these cyclical glaciation, there was a reduction of forest and expansion of open habitats. Because as you are very aware about this, that the growing of vegetation, especially the large vegetation, all of them, they need a certain temperature threshold, certain, in simple, certain warm temperature, not the ice cold temperatures of that ice ages. So uh, that glaciation phases, they had thousands of kilometers of thick ice everywhere, and such condition they could not favor the growth of forest or any kind of vegetation. And because of these icy condition, vegetation was not there, so what remains was open habitat. And because of those open habitat, it favored bipedal locomotion, bipedalism. And I have already explained that when habitats are open, when you have a large open space before you, and to survive in those harsh conditions, especially from predators, you need to cover up, you need to move large distances in a short period of time. And that can happen only when you have some locomotive advantage. So bipedalism has some evolutionary advantages when compared to four leg. So this was how the Australopithecines they came to survive the onslaught of ice ages. Then the dietary shift, change in vegetation that led to increased reliance on hard to chew plant material and protein sources, and it pushed hominin towards a more diverse diet. So this diversification of diet, it helped in survival of our ancestor, and it has also helped in evolution of our own Homo sapiens species. And how I have explained how. And now hard to chew plant material, because plants, most of them, they are consisted of cellulose, and cellulose is a material that is very difficult to digest. It needs a lot of chewing, and lot of chewing, it needs a different kind of dentition. So if you are if you ever ask why do we have this particular kind of dentition, this kind of teeth structure, so the molars, the premolars, the canine, incisor, all of them, they are evolved, and they are influenced by those icy condition, by those glacial condition, and by the then habitat, which led to change in vegetation. But to survive, we have had to rely on multiple sources. The cellulose was there, but its supply could not be guaranteed. So we have had to push on more other dietary sources such as protein. So most of these protein, it came from animal diet, animal meat, and this diversification of diet, it also included herbs, tubers, roots, fruits. So this this is generalized diet. It not only helped in our survival, it also provided a flat face. It also helped in the cognitive advancement, and it led to a clearing up of a phase that could not have been transition if we or if our ancestor did not push for these many resources. Now, the survival pressures, so increased predation in open grasslands, it may have led to the development of social cooperation, intelligence, aiding survival, and I would say the survival pressure also include the the evolution of stereoscopic vision. Stereoscopic vision, which means when you stand up on your two legs, facing the forward direction. Now the our ancestor, they came to have eyes which were placed in the front of their faces, not in sidewise like many other animals. So when your eyes are in front of face, your vision, it expands in this way. It's just like when you place your mobile phone, when you place your camera on a tripod. So because of the placing it on tripod, it will have more vision, more area to cover up. So this stereoscopic vision, it, as I've explained, it led to complexity of brain, and this complexity of brain, it led to development of language, which led to social cooperation and intelligence, to forage the immediate and distant atmosphere, distant environment, to explore the areas which which is otherwise not possible if we have walked on our four legs. So these survival pressures, they got manifested because of the the condition, the times were also testing at that time. Now, cyclical glaciation and environment changes that favored hominin evolution. So during the Pleistocene, Earth experienced repeated glacial and interglacial cycle, each lasting 100,000 years. So this means that both glacial time and interglacial time, they existed 100,000 years each. Or for first 100,000 years, there was snow everywhere. For the next 100,000 years, the snow melted and it grasslands and vegetation was there. Now, the effects of glaciation on hominin. So first, climate extreme. Cold periods glaciation led to arid condition in Africa, while warm period led to allowed forests to regrow. Second, food scarcity. That variable climate forced hominin to develop omnivorous diet incorporating food, tubers, and small animals. Then the selective pressure for intelligence, that harsh condition that likely favored higher cognitive abilities, promoting problem solving, tool use, and social cooperation, and I have explained why. Then the habitat fragmentation, that changes in vegetation, it led to smaller isolated population, and such fragmentation, it drove regional adaptation and diversification among hominids. So the last one needs some explanation. So since the environmental conditions were harsh, so because of which large social group could not be accommodated, could not survive. So it was probable and it was imperative that each of the section, each of the larger group, they got fragmented into smaller groups, so that each smaller group in multiple direction, they could have some certainty of their survival. So in one way, this thing, this diversification, this fragmentation also drove adaptive radiation, because this is how the our ancestors, the Australopithecus, the Homo habilis, Homo erectus, all of them, they moved out of Africa in different direction, and that's how we have come to dominate the whole world in terms of different biological races. That these fragmented small groups, when they went in different direction, so this differentiation, this fragmentation, it led to regional adaptation. So the group that went to in the temperate condition of Americas, of Europe, they gradually the came to form the Caucasoid race. In the same way, the species that moved out of Africa in the southern direction, especially towards the eastern side, the Indian and Australian side, they have come to occupy a different niche, and this different niche, it led to creation of different subspecies of Homo erectus, and we will talk about Homo erectus in different chapter. But you will know this, and you will get this understanding that how this fragmentation and how climatic variation led to these fragmentation led to regional diversion, adaptation, and these regional adaptation, they, by adaptive radiation, they created different niche, and those different niche, they led to creation of different biological races. So ultimately, the same fragmentation and same regional adaptation, it helped in our survival. So this was quite uh, intelligent and wise of our ancestors that they took this decision that if the larger group, if it is converted into a smaller group, this fragmentation can ultimately lead to survival. Even if one group perish somewhere, other groups can still survive, and this will help in continuation of our lineages. So this was a wise and a brave decision. So this the cyclical environmental stability shaped the survival strategy of Australopithecines, leading to bipedal locomotion, increasing dietary breadth, and early tool use. Now, what are the difference between hominids and hominids? So hominids are all of our ancestors, including great apes and all primate species, which include humans, chimpanzees, gorilla, orangutans. Whereas hominins, they are specific subgroup that include all human-like characteristics or that exhibit more human, more homo characteristics. So those species that look like us, such as Australopithecines, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo neanderthals, and Cro-Magnons, Grimbaldi, and including Homo sapiens, all of us, we come together to form hominins. So the key feature that distinguish hominins from other primates it is habitual bipedalism. Because hominids, as I've said, some of the hominids, some of the chimpanzees, gorilla, orangutan, they also exhibit occasional bipedalism. So the key difference it is in habitual bipedalism that the the animal in concern, the animal that is being talked about, should walk upright as the primary mode of locomotion, not the occasional bipedalism. So this shift marked a critical divergence from our ape ancestor. Now let's have a look at phylogenetic status of Australopithecines. So these are placed in hominin clade because of their bipedalism, habitual bipedalism, and they represent an evolutionary branch that emerged after the divergence from the last common ancestor with the chimpanzees. So, in another way, in simple way, Australopithecines they and chimpanzee both of them they had common ancestor, and the line of Australopithecines it gradually diverged from chimpanzees. So chimpanzees and Australopithecines, both of them, they are placed in the same phylogenetic lineage. Now, evolutionary placement of Australopithecines. First, they are ancestor to Homo species, such as certain species such as Australopithecus afarensis. They are considered direct precursors to Homo habilis. Then the evolutionary dead ends. So robust Australopithecines, especially Paranthropus robustus, they represent a side branch of hominin evolution that became extinct because of their specialized diet. Now the key adaptive traits: first, bipedalism, reduce canine size because when you have omnivorous diet, your canine, uh, your teeth dentition, it also mm, reflect that change to omnivory, and then increase reliance on terrestrial foraging strategies, which further boosted bipedalism, stereoscopic vision, complex brain, development of neocortex, and other survival exploratory behaviors. Now, characteristic of Australopithecines. So they display a mix of both primitive and derived traits, and thus acting as an intermediate filler between great apes and early humans. The anatomical features was the cranial characteristic. They have small brain size that range from 350 to 550 centimeter cube. Prognathism, which means the structure of face. So they have a forward projecting face, that of great apes, which means prognathism. It is a mark of protrusion, mark of jaw, massive jaw, just like different ape species, gorilla, orangutan, chimpanzees, all of them, they have come to possess such a projecting face. And in the same way, Australopithecines, they also show marked prognathism. Now, the sagittal crest in robust species, which is found in P. boisei, it indicated strong jaw muscles for heavy chewing. So, sagittal crest, um, so just say it is an oblique version of skull. So, sagittal crest, it is a line that runs in the middle of your skull. And this line, it is there for supporting the jaw muscles. So the presence of this line, it is an indication of massive jaw, especially those jaw that are involved in some kind of heavy chewing. Now, large zygomatic arches. Zygomatic arches, you can see the remnant of which including the Homo sapiens, known as cheekbones. So zygomatic arch is also known as cheekbones, and they are there as a mark of strong jaw, because they provide attachment for heavy chewing, for powerful chewing muscles. They were especially present in robust Australopithecines. And those zygomatic arches, those heavy cheekbones, they have reduced to a large extent in uh, the subsequent predecessors. And we Homo sapiens, we do have these cheekbones, these zygomatic arches, but they are not that prominent uh, like that of other primate, other apes, and Australopithecines. Now, behavioral trait. First, the dietary variability. The gracile Australopithecines, Afarensis and Africanus, both of them, they show a mixed diet, an omnivorous diet that include fruit, seeds, and occasional meat. Whereas the robust species, they relied heavily on fibrous plants and roots. Now, the social structure, both the subspecies, they lived in small cooperative groups, and they might have engaged in early stone tool use. Now, the geographical distribution of Australopithecines. So, their fossils have been found in East and South Africa, demonstrating wide range and adaptability. So, East African Australopithecines, Afarensis, have been found in Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Kenya. Anamansis have been found in Kenya and Ethiopia. Paranthropus boisei, it was found in Kenya, Ethiopia, and Tanzania. South African Australopithecines, they were found in South Africa, both Africanus and Robustus. And these are the sites: East African fossil sites, Heather, Ethiopia, related to Afarensis, the famous of which is Lucy. Then Lautoli, Tanzania, where fossilized footprints confirming bipedalism. Third, Kubifoa, Kenya, where P. boisei fossils were found. Fourth one, Olduvai Gorge, Tanzania, where early hominin fossils and stool tools were found. Next, the South African fossil sites. So first one is Stakfontein, where Africanus, Mister's Place, the fossils were found. Then the fossil of Thong Child, which is which was known as Australopithecus africanus. Then Swartkran's grave, where Robustus fossil were found. So these findings, they suggest that Australopithecines, they occupy diverse ecological niches adapting to both open grassland and woodland environment. Now, major Australopithecine species key discovery and adaptation. So, from UPSC perspective, first thing, they were the first earliest bipedal hominins that thrive in Africa between 4 and 1 million years ago. And fossil evidence from both South and East Africa provide critical insight into their physical and behavioral adaptation. So, first prominent Australopithecine was Australopithecus afarensis, which existed from 3.9 to 2.9 million years ago. Key fossil is that of Lucy, which was found in Ethiopia. Features small brain 400 to 500 cubic centimeter, long arms for climbing, and clear evidence of bipedal walking. And significance, it represents an important link between earlier apes and later hominins. Then the second important Australopithecine was Australopithecus africanus that existed from 3.3 to 2.1 million years ago. Key fossil, Tong child, the first early hominin discovered in Africa, feature slightly large brain, around 460 cubic centimeter, smaller teeth, which indicates generalized dietary pattern, and less pronounced brow ridges, which indicate slightly forward placement of eyes and less massive jaws. And significance, it indicates increased reliance on terrestrial life and varied diet. Now, the third important species, Paranthropus boisei, that existed from 2.3 million years to 1.4 million years ago. Key fossil, Nutcracker man, found in Olduvai Gorge and named for his massive jaws and teeth. You can see the differences here. That here, the Lucy, the Afarensis species, here she had long arms. So her species, the members of her species, may still were brachiating or maybe living a hybrid lifestyle that include both arboreal and terrestrial existence. Brachiating means to hang by branches, to live from one branch to other branch like monkeys. And arboreal means to dwell on trees, to live on trees. So she had long arms, and still there is a clear evidence of bipedal walking, which indicates hybrid lifestyle or hybrid dwelling. Then the Africanus subspecies, it was of smaller teeth and less pronounced brow ridges, both of which indicate that first eyes have been placed in forward, and the size of size of jaw, it has become less massive, which in other words indicates generalized dietary pattern, or in other words omnivory. Then you can see another pattern here, that smaller teeth, less pronounced brow ridges, less massive jaw, simple or generalized teeth structure, and omnivory, it led to slightly larger brain. So there is an evidence of cognitive enhancement in this species, Africanus. Now, when you see Boisei, this species is characterized by massive jaws and teeth, and it has a large sagittal crest. And as I have said, sagittal crest, it is a bone that runs in the middle of the skull, which is there for supporting powerful jaw muscles for chewing. And this also show extreme specialization for tough fibrous diet, tough plant-based diet. So the diversity among the subspecies is there, and you need to remember all that. And the significance, a robust hominin that eventually went extinct, maybe because of highly specialized diet. So we, the Homo sapiens, we have come to survive all these years, all this onslaught of time, just because our ancestor they chose generalized pattern to that of a specialization. Now let's have a comparative look at between the anatomical features of gracile and robust Australopithecines. First, skull shape. Gracile has rounded skull with a smaller brow ridges, whereas robust species they have heavily built skull with large sagittal crest and large brow ridges, all of which shows heavy jaw, massive jaws for chewing. Now the difference, brain size, uh, the differences between both gracile and robust uh, are negligible. Teeth and jaws. So the gracile species, their dentition was simple and smaller, which adapted for varied and omnivorous diet, whereas the robust species they have massive molars, especially for chewing tough plants. So this indicate diet. Gracile species have omnivorous diet, whereas robust species they have fibrous herbivorous diet. Bipedal locomotion. So both of these species they show bipedalism. Now let's have a look at anthropological significance of Australopithecines. So first one is bipedalism, the theme that keep recurring in the whole video. That they were the first species that clearly show signs of bipedalism. And this bipedalism it allowed for more energy efficient locomotion, and bipedalism it freed hand for tools used in carrying food and improved thermal regulation in hot savanna environment. Now the dietary adaptation, we have seen the dietary adaptation of both gracile and robust species. Social and behavioral adaptation, which is similar in all subspecies, that all of them they lived in small groups, and they might have used primitive tools because uh, all most of the Australopithecine species they have around 450 cubic centimeters of brain size in general, which which is good enough for simple tool use. Now, anatomical changes associated with bipedalism. How we associate bipedalism with certain musculoskeletal changes. So, first is a change in this pelvis size. Pelvic girdle or pelvis, it broadens in size because when bipedalism is supported, your upper torso it is supported on your legs, on your knees. So uh, to avoid a condition in which your knees cap they do not buckle up under this immense pressure, the same body weight it need to be supported, it need to be diverted to different body parts. So pelvis is an intermediate area that support the torso, that channelize the upper weight, and it also provides stability. Now, second, foramen magnum position. So, foramen magnum, it is the skull opening that joins skull with the backbone. The upper end of backbone, it is supported by an opening in skull. So, this opening, in when we were walking on four, this opening was somewhere in the posterior side, but when we started walking onto this opening it gradually shift in the middle, so that the weight of skull and the center of gravity both of them they can situate in this backbone. In other words, because of this uh, central position of foramen magnum, the entire weight of upper torso and skull, all of them, they can be distributed evenly among all the subsequent part of backbone. Now, spinal curvature, S-shaped spine for better balance. So, a spine, a backbone that is, you can say, in linear shape or rectilinear shape. Rectilinear, in simple word, you can say a simple line. So if the backbone is in a simple line, then this will not provide efficient locomotion or all kind of all diversity of locomotion. So the enhanced mobility that is associated with moving of our arms, moving of shoulder, jumping, leaping, all of them they are associated with S-shaped backbone, S-shaped spine, because in that way this spine it properly distribute the weight. Here you can see this is the skull, this opening it is foramen magnum, and this is the distribution of weight, and this structure it is pelvis. So the whole skeletal it is situated in such a way that the center of gravity it is somewhere in the middle and on the pelvis. So this leads to even distribution of weight from the middle of the backbone, pelvis, and then on your thighs. So this significance, this transition or this natural selection, it is you can say a different story, and we will talk about this in a different chapter. But uh, for this particular chapter, you must look at the differences, the various evolutions, skeletal evolution that happened at that time, and finally the foot structure. So the foot it came to become flat with arches. So if you see any human foot from side in oblique way, you will see that human foot it is evolved in this way, that we have an arch in the middle followed by sole heel. So this arch it supports varied locomotion, especially bipedal locomotion, because a flat foot again, just like we have an S-shaped spine, and this S-shaped spine is there for even vertical distribution of weight. In the same way the arches in our foot they are there so that any extra weight, any discrepancy in the weight structure, this can be adjusted by this, by the presence of this arch. And the second anatomical evolution in foot structure was non-opposable big toe. So big toe in our feet they are not opposable. So opposable means if you look at your hand, so your thumb, first thumb, it can make use of first finger to hold an object, just like the way you hold a pen. So the very act of holding pen it is because of your we came to uh, have an opposable thumb, but the toes, the thumbs in foot they are not non-opposable, and both of these develop arches and non-opposable big toe they are there for efficient walking and the even distribution of weight. Now the last one, transition to Homo. So by around 2 million years ago, Australopithecines they gave rise to genus Homo, and this transition, this evolution, it was held by, it was characterized by these many variations. The first one is brain expansion. So early Homo species such as Homo habilis, they have had brain sizes that exceed 600 cubic centimeter. Then with the increase in brain size and complexity uh, came cognitive enhancement, and with it came better tool use. So the development of tool use started by Aldrin industry, and which indicates increasing cognitive abilities. Further dietary flexibility towards omnivory. So our diet came to incorporate meat, with, which led to higher calorie intake, and this higher higher fuel, it led to efficiency in the functioning of brain. As I have said, bigger brain will consume more energy, and more energy will be needed. And to compensate for that, to provide for more energy, you need sources that can provide this much needed energy. So a plant-based diet, especially cellulose-based diet, cannot compensate for the extra intake. So our ancestors, they came to rely on animal meat, and this provided much needed calorie, which further fueled brain expansion. And last one, behavioral complexity. So because of which, when all these enhancement, all these evolutionary transition, they help in survival of our ancestor, that increase social cooperation. And this social cooperation, along with many advancement, enhancement in many brain areas such as Broca's area, left hemisphere, all of them, they also started rudimentary communication in form of language, and this may have started the origin of languages. Now, finally, the conclusion. The Australopithecines, they played a pivotal role in human evolution that bridged the gap between primitive apes and genus Homo. The adaptation to bipedalism, environmental shift, and diversity led the foundation of emergence of modern human traits, and key takeaway of which are the Plio-Pleistocene epoch provided a dynamic backdrop for hominid evolution. Cyclic glaciation forced adaptation that shaped survival strategies. The distinction between hominin and hominids, they clarify human ancestry. Gracile and robust Australopithecines, they show evolutionary diversification. Bipedalism was a critical adaptation in hominin evolution, and the transition to Homo set the stage for modern human. So, this is it. Thank you very much.